Welcome everyone to the November Government Affairs Connection meeting. My name is Linda Lee Viken, and I'm a longtime volunteer and board member of the Rapid City Area Chamber of Commerce and Elevate Public Policy Committee. We're pleased to welcome Pennington County Commissioner Gary Drews this morning to give us a state of Pennington County. In a state like South Dakota that values local control so much, happens at the county level, and that includes issues of transportation, health, law enforcement, education, and of course, elections. We've invited Commissioner Drews to give us an update on his choice of these topics and give us a little look into the work that's done at the county level that may go unnoticed. Commissioner Drews is the Vice Chair of the Pennington County Commission. He has worn many hats over the years as a local leader, of course, including his long active participation with the Rapid City Chamber of Commerce. We're grateful to have him as such an engaged member of our community. If you have any questions throughout this presentation for Commissioner Drews, please submit your questions in the question and answer box below. We'll be ending the webinar a little early today because we want to allow Commissioner Gary some time to prepare for his 9 o'clock commission meeting. With that, we'll turn it over to you, Mr. Commissioner.
Thank you, Lily, and it's certainly my pleasure to come before the Government Affairs Connection of Elevate. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about Pennington County. And although I want you to develop your own thoughts about the condition of the county, I'll tell you right now, the county is in excellent shape. I'm going to provide you with some revenue and budget breakdowns, but I'll also highlight some departments where services or extent of services may be beyond of what we believe is normal for those departments. We have some very innovative officials who have figured out how to save dollars for the taxpayers, but offer expanded services to the recipients. It's a huge win-win for the county. And I'm exceedingly proud of many of our separately elected officials and appointed department heads for their creative ideas in serving the needs of our taxpayers. Pennington County government is a major business. Our total budget, including all revenues for 2020, was scheduled to be about $110 million. When COVID-19 hit early in the year, we asked all departments to trim or delay many expenses, and our departments came back with reductions of nearly 10%. I think I can safely say the playbook called for a team effort of all departments, and it was very successful. As I believe any business person can relate, we did not know how the virus was going to impact us financially because of potential revenue loss and unknown services we would need to provide. The CARES Act, passed by the U.S. Senate and House and signed by the President, brought considerable relief to government entities. For Pennington County, we were awarded about $7.5 million. And as of about October 20th, we had submitted applications which justified reimbursement of that total amount. We'll have some additional expenses, but unless there's a reallocation of unspent funds from other government entities, we'll not be entitled to recover those expenses. The key barometer for us is the collection of property taxes. First half, due back in April, was actually slightly more than the previous year. And at the end of October, it appears we are very close to having received nearly 100% for the year. All indicators give us the optimistic view that we should be right on track of our expectations. This includes property taxes for the schools, cities, and the county. Let's talk a little bit about demographics of Pennington County. The area of Pennington County makes up nearly 2,800 square miles. The only larger county in square miles in South Dakota is our neighbor, Meade County, with nearly 3,500 square miles. I'm often asked why our budget and employee numbers are more than Minnehaha County in the eastern part of the state, where they have considerably more population. Our population is somewhat over 110,000 from our last census, I believe. Minnehaha County is probably 180, 190,000 or more. In perspective, Minnehaha County has only 800 square miles. Land-wise, we are 3.5 times that size. They also have some outside services available to them that we do not have. A good example is the State Health and Human Services Center at Yankton only 80 miles from Sioux Falls. Pennington County, we're split about half and half on male versus female. About 83% of us are white, with nearly 10% Native American, and the balance being Hispanic, Latino, Black, or Asian. On budget, how do we generate funding for anticipated expenses of about $110 million, which was the original number for 2020 when adopted in 2019? By the way, the budget established for 2021 is just slightly less than that number. It is actually $109,870,000. The general fund, which amounts to a little more than $66 million, is made up of about $40 million in property taxes. Other revenue sources include licenses and permits, intergovernmental revenue, fines, and other miscellaneous revenue. Our treasurer's office, under the direction of Janet Saylor, is the tax collector. What a job she and her staff have accomplished during these past few months. To protect employees and to get the work done, the office was being staffed from 6 a.m. until considerably past closing hours, and I know that there were some Saturdays thrown into that mix also. Keeping staff and the public safe was a huge challenge. I need to give a major thank you to Mike Cool and his staff at Buildings and Grounds. As COVID-19 hit, Mike and crew came to the rescue to provide protection in and around our buildings. Plexiglass barriers were constructed and installed. Much of his staff was taken away from their regular duties in order to keep facilities free of the virus. They received much credit for our offices being able to continually operate and service the taxpayers during this entire time. In addition, Director Cool recommended and the Board of Commissioners approved the purchase and installation of an air cleaning ionization equipment for HVAC systems at larger county facilities. This is to provide additional safeguard to protect our workforce and the people who utilize our facilities. The installed technology is shown to be effective in reducing pathogens, including COVID-19, airborne particles, and odors within indoor environments. Director Cool advises that by utilizing this technology, our goal is to reduce transmission of COVID-19 or other illness in facilities and reduce operating costs. This should be considered as another action taken to fight the disease, according to Mr. Cool, and not as a substitute for recommended safe practices like social distancing and wearing masks. Breaking the numbers down, the budget for the Highway Department is more than $19,253,000. About 90% of that is property tax, but the Road and Bridge Fund also receives mobile home registration fees, motor fuel taxes, pro-rate port of entry fees, South Dakota Department of Transportation bridge special funding. We also put some Department of Transportation money in reserves for matches of federal and state funds. And so in 2021, those reserves will be primarily depleted as Highway will utilize about $8 million in reserves. As a county, we need to plan for future expenses as any other business or individuals. The rebuild of Sheridan Lake Road, which started this year and hopefully will see completion in 2021, was in the planning and development stages for many years. That line item for saving dollars for that project apparently began in 2002. That's right, 18 years ago. Just as a sidelight, as we continue to rebuild Sheridan Lake Road, we will also in 2021 be replacing the bridge near Rochford and hard surfacing the South Rochford Road. That project has been around for at least 12 years and maybe more, but will hopefully be completed next year. As you may recall, in 2015, the South Dakota legislature changed the formula by which counties could apply for road and bridge funds. They created a separate fund called the Bridge Improvement Grant, known as BIG, with the condition that only counties that collected a wheel tax could qualify. That year, 2015, the Pennington County Commission adopted a wheel tax, but it was referred to a vote and was defeated. In June of this year, our commission adopted a resolution to collect $2 per wheel starting in 2021. We are anticipating in 2021 that $2 per wheel tax will generate in excess of $1.3 million for Superintendent Joe Miller's operation. Also, in addition to the money that it raises locally, it will allow Pennington County to apply for big fund grants. We know we have experienced a direct loss in bridge funding opportunities since 2015 due to the lack of a wheel tax. We can't put a dollar value on that since it is a grant application process. I mentioned how many square miles are in Pennington County. And so we also have an enormous number of bridges, 127 of them. Average lifespan of a typical bridge is 50 to 70 years. Currently, 44 bridges are over 50 years old, and another 44 between 45 and 50 years of age. 21 bridges are classified as structurally deficient. We experienced at least 2 complete bridge failures in 2019, and one that collapsed this year under the weight of a loaded semi on Nemo Road. In the last 7 years, Pennington County has spent on average $496,000 annually on bridges. With 88 bridges in need of replacement over the course of the next 25 years, at an estimated cost of $1.5 million each, the county must budget approximately $1.5 million annually in today's dollars for this purpose. The Highway Department also maintains 837 miles of roads in the county. The flood of 1972 destroyed many bridges. Those are rebuilt in the early 1970s, and that is the primary reason so many are requiring replacement in a fairly short period of time. Revenue from the wheel tax is 100% retained by the county and is deposited in the Road and Bridge Fund and can only be used for road and bridge maintenance and construction. Out of the 800 employees of Pennington County, over half of those are employed by the Sheriff's Office. Yes, it's a big department that has many responsibilities. About 1/3 of our entire budget goes to services provided under the Sheriff. It includes about 160 employees to run the jail, another 130 or so on the law enforcement side, plus another 65 or so at the care campus and nearly 60 for the Juvenile Services Center. Pennington County has 19 departments, but obviously numerous functions may be performed under the umbrella of one department. Sheriff's Office and Health and Human Services are 2 primary examples. I just said 1/3 of our total budget goes towards activities under the Sheriff, but the Sheriff and his staff are some of those very innovative individuals who generate nearly 50%, that's right, 50% of their budget by outside revenues. This includes several nonprofits. Our Sheriff's Department is one of several departments we have that serve as a model to other entities throughout the country as to how to operate an efficient and effective department. Because of its size and dynamics, I want to spend a little time on the Sheriff's Department. Usually we think of government and especially law enforcement as being reactive. Being called after an incident is normal and will continue to be part of law enforcement. But we are very fortunate for the proactive activity that takes place with our law enforcement. The jail under Commander Rob Yantis is committed to improving the lives of inmates with public safety in mind. Programming continues to develop by addressing education, cultural, spiritual, and behavioral needs. It is their goal that as inmates are released, they are in better condition than when they arrived. With assistance from the Office of State's Attorney and Public Defenders, along with our court system, appropriate inmates are offered diversion programs so they may remain gainfully employed and educated on a direction forward. We know from experience that much more can be gained by education and treatment than keeping a person in jail. In addition, it proves out to be a cost saving for the county. 2019, it cost an average of $85 per day to house an inmate in the Pennington County Jail. We had an average daily number of 645 inmates with an average stay of over 17 days. The care campus, with its many programs under one roof, had the largest impact on jail reduction during 2019. 2019 was the first full year of operation of the care campus, and they had over 32,000 intakes, which included over 22,000 admissions to a safe solutions bed, a short stay sobering program for nonviolent individuals. The care campus is also an alternative to jail for individuals identified by law enforcement to have a nonviolent, low-level offense. Individuals that enter the care campus with law enforcement do so without a charge, resulting in a system diversion. Much of the programming cost for this came through the MacArthur Safety and Justice Challenge. That is supported by the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation. I also want to include this in the proactive category. We have witnessed much unrest around the country this year, some of it in the name of law enforcement going above and beyond what is reasonable and responsible. That is not unique to just other areas of the country. Our officers are constantly being checked by those that would love to bring lawsuits. I think our officers and jail personnel have done a great job in handling their responsibilities and limiting our liability exposures. Part of that reason is because of the extensive training we receive continually. 2019 training hours for employees at the care campus, 24/7, jail, juvenile services, and law enforcement was 36,258 hours. Critical exposure brings about extensive training. I'm not covering anywhere near all the activities of the Sheriff's Office, but I'm trying to hit a few highlights. So in 2019, the Sheriff's Office also piloted an employment opportunity with Western Dakota Technical Institute's Criminal Justice Program. The program provides our Sheriff's Office with an opportunity to staff current positions with students in a part-time capacity around their school schedules. This provides needed work experience for students and a consistent pool of quality applicants for the Sheriff's Office. Numerous students that have graduated have been hired full-time, either at the jail or care campus. I might just point this out too, an increased effort has been made in the last several years to encourage Native Americans to become involved in public safety. And the latest numbers I have show that in the years 2018 and 2019, 40 Native Americans were added as employees of the Sheriff's Office. Mental health is another critical component that counties of all sizes are faced with. Just a couple of weeks ago, our Sheriff's Office announced they were one of 18 counties in the state to join in the Virtual Crisis Care Pilot Program. That program joins law enforcement and mental health professionals into mobile crisis response teams to assist people in crisis. Probably the majority of calls for assistance in mental health crisis often come to local law enforcement. It is a situation where the individual does not, if it is a situation where the individual does not require hospitalization or incarceration, the law enforcement official, through a tablet, can be connected with a mental health services professional. This pilot project is being funded through the Leona M. and Harry B. Helmsley Charitable Trust. One of the most oft-asked questions to me from people from other areas of the state is, why do we have a bus that says Pennington County Sheriff's Office? I'll touch on that since in 2019 we acquired a new bus. This is another necessary item for the county since we are located 350 miles from the state prison. That is a prisoner transport bus that our deputies travel twice a week to Sioux Falls, and sometimes they need to continue their travel to the state hospital in Yankton. In fact, in 2019, they traveled to Yankton 42 times. They may be delivering new prisoners to the prison and or bringing prisoners back for court activities or mental health assessments. To offset the cost of operating that bus, they offer to pick up prisoners from other entities as prisoners are brought to an interstate location. The care campus culminated with the efforts of Sheriff Kevin Tome and Health and Human Services Director Barry Tice. They had lots of help, but it was their hard work that this became a reality. The best part of the programs offered through the campus, again, are proactive and help create a healthy community. The campus across from the courthouse has 4 primary partners, which include the Pennington County Sheriff's Office, Pennington County Health and Human Services, Behavioral Management Systems, and the Rapid City Police Department. Pennington County has invested $14.1 million and was the recipient of a donation for $2.2 million to complete the 64-bed residential treatment, which was opened in 2019. $900,000 was contributed from the city of Rapid City, and the detox program costs are shared between the city of Rapid City and Pennington County. The MacArthur Foundation has provided funding for additional staff with the care campus to facilitate alternatives to incarceration. Monument Health has also provided a one-time financial donation for staffing assistance. Other partners within the facility include Lutheran Social Services, and the South Dakota Department of Corrections. There's over 70,000 square feet in that building, and it is busy. Director Tice just provided me a care campus 2-year overview. These numbers I'm going to share are a complement to the programming being operated at that campus. Keep in mind, these are not rigid programs. They are massaged and improved constantly, very fluid in order to help individuals become healthy. 50,577 total admissions since September 26, 2018. That's when that building opened as the care campus. 50,577 total admissions, 71% of which were for Safe Solutions. The additional 29% of admissions were made to the detoxification unit, crisis care center, and residential. That's inpatient treatment. 78% of the individuals were males, 22% female. 77% of the admissions to the care campus are Native American, 12% white, 3% Black, African American, 8% are not specified. 2,395 individuals were diverted entirely from the criminal justice system to the care campus, resulting in a cost savings of $1.4 million to the community. Class 2 misdemeanors have decreased by 51% since September of 2017, mainly due to the ability for individuals to access the care campus on their own, and as a result of law enforcement referrals as an alternative to incarceration. The use of the care campus by law enforcement officers reduces the amount of time spent on low-level misdemeanor behavior and increases officer availability for more serious crimes, which improves overall public safety. 69% of the admissions involved individuals assessing the care campus on their own, self-referral, if you may, which is an indication of a positive experience, less law enforcement intervention, and substantial increase in safety for oneself. 26% of the time, enforcement referred individuals to the care campus, which denotes an alternative to costly incarcerations and an additional tool for law enforcement, which connects individuals they encounter to the therapeutic services and needed care. The remaining 5% of referrals were from surrounding area law enforcement, Monument Health, and other referrals such as family members and friends. Pennington County contributes approximately $700,000 a year out of general fund dollars, and the city of Rapid City contributes $757,000 for operations. The rest of the operational budget comes from outside revenues. Tice said they continue to have conversations with representatives from Great Plains Tribal Chairman's Health Board and Oyate Health to create a partnership in working with our Native American population. Another department, the state's attorney's office, run by Mark Fargo, has played a huge role in trying to create more healthy individuals that have run afoul of the law. We as a community in a large area of western South Dakota have struggled with addiction, principally alcohol and meth. Fargo has also worked at looking at solutions to eliminate or greatly reduce the incarceration time. State's Attorney's Office has created relationships with Ion Legacy, 7 Directions, and Native Healing, which offer services that are designed to affect behavioral changes and keep people out of the criminal justice system. Public Defender Office, headed by Eric Witcher, is also a critical part of making relationships and return people to the community healthier and more able to contribute to our county. Again, much of these efforts have become possible because of the MacArthur Foundation's Safety and Justice Challenge. Rehabilitation is a key word, and our judges have worked well with all of our offices to keep credence to making those that have crossed the line, to bring them back as productive citizens in our society. I don't ever want to leave you with the impression that this is an easy way of treating offenders. It takes much work on the part of many people, and the benefits reach far beyond the financial realm. Diversion programs are developed specifically for juveniles, young adults, and adults, and that has broke down much further, and they gear it directly to the individual. So you might ask, you have all these programs for offenders. What about the victims? Good question. Victims are a main concern. After becoming a victim, usually at no fault of their own. This is not normal territory for them to travel. And what are the consequences for a victim? So how does a victim learn and understand what rights do they actually have and who can they reach out to for information? In the state's attorney's office, there's a victims assistance division. It is designed to help victims navigate the system and to make sure that their voice is heard. All county offices have been fully staffed essentially since the beginning of the COVID-19. Our offices may have operated under different procedures, but the work continued, and our tasks are on track and on time. Our IT department stepped up and worked to get about 10% of our workforce to be set up and able to work remotely or from home. There's a lot of detail in what Director Lori Wager and her staff had to accomplish, and they are to be commended for their efforts. Some departments worked initially by appointment only, but we discovered early on that did not work in all instances. For example, the Treasurer's Office with the renewal of license plates and new registrations. Although we had to make some adjustments to keep up with demand, all offices, including the Treasurer's Office, are current. In fact, the Treasurer's Office, with 2 months remaining before the end of the year, have already processed an all-time high number of new vehicle registrations. Auditor Cindy Moeller and her very capable staff worked tirelessly to create new polling places for the primary and general elections. As we know now, both elections locally were professionally run, and voters, although some had to vote in a new and different polling location, had much opportunity to cast their vote. Emergency management. A shared department with the city of Rapid City has had to perform responsibilities no one anticipated. Director Dustin Willett and his small staff twice set up emergency facilities for the homeless. Logistics to do that are enormous. In addition, he worked directly with every community within the county at least weekly to keep them informed, but to assist in finding solutions to many different scenarios. As a county as a whole, we attempt to meet all the needs of our communities located within the county. That is not anything new. We work very closely with our communities to assist them in meeting their needs. Currently, we are working with Box Elder as they prepare to meet the growth that is happening now and expected within that community during the course of the next several years. By the way, our employees have not been immune from the virus. More than 10% of our employees so far have been diagnosed positive, most of which have recovered and are back to work. Earlier this year, we adopted the 2040 Comprehensive Planning Manual for the county. This establishes and sets out how we see development for the next 20 years. However, even though this was worked on for 2 years, please recognize that forecasting the needs of the future does not mean we do not have changes and modifications to that plan constantly. It's a snapshot in time and considers topography, soils, best use of the land, and many other components. It's a great document for planning purposes. We are familiar with the 1 and 3 mile limits surrounding cities. Our chair, Deb Hadcock, has got the ball rolling with the city to review both city and county regulations and try to make those more consistent, mostly in the 1 mile zone. It makes sense as the city grows and expands, that the regulations in those areas allow for minimal adjustments if possible. The real work in the future on that will take place between the city and county planning departments. That concludes my report. Are there any questions I can answer?
So thank you, Commissioner Drews. That was a lot of information to delve through in that 30 minutes. So thank you for your time and for preparing that. So our first question came in from Shandara Bonnet with the Rapid City Journal, and she has a question pertaining to the highway department projects. So when there's that prep time of about 12 years, how do you plan for those projects so far in advance? And 2, what is that indicator that a project needs to get into that pipeline and needs worked on, but it isn't immediately necessary to repair? And that it will take that 12 years to prepare for the project.
Yeah, let me use that South Rochford Road as the example, since I've used that. That road has been a very passable road and very usable road for many years. But the demand on traffic, the local citizens that live there, they are the ones that were behind requesting that this road be hard surfaced many years ago. And I don't know when that originally started. I suspect that was much longer ago than even 12 years. But in the overall planning, I mean, our highway department is now looking at projects of 10, 15, 20 years out. And so that was one of those projects back then that was put down as one of the feasible things that should be done in the future. They did receive, I believe at the time, considerable federal funds for assistance on that. That's probably part of those funds that are being taken out of those reserves now to be used for that particular project. So it's a challenge to be looking out what the future needs are, but at the same time, it's no different than any other business, I don't believe, that looks out as to what they need to be doing in the future for changes, adjustments, modifications. Obviously, this year has put a wrench into all those things with COVID-19. A lot of those plans are going to have to be, for most businesses, I'm not talking necessarily about the county, but for most businesses, they're going to have to be looking at what adjustments now need to be made because of the situation that they were put into this year. Did that answer that question?
I think so. Well,
Okay.
we'll wait for follow-up, but I think so. All right, our next question comes from Alan Solano. And so he has a question pertaining to the CARES Act allocation. So with Pennington County having already submitted reimbursement for its full CARES Act allocation from the governor, is there currently a request into the governor to fund the remaining unreimbursed expenses related to COVID-19?
Let me put this way. And first of all, let me thank Mr. Solano. Through his nonprofit, they have done a lot of great things for us as a county, so we appreciate all of his assistance. Relative to that, there may be an opportunity. There's a number of government entities in South Dakota that did not take advantage of the allotment that they were provided. I'm hopeful that as the state is looking at this, they may reallocate some of those funds back for further application, but that's not a definitive at this point in time. We've not heard that they're for sure going to do that. Whether or not there's going to be additional funds made available, we are not aware of that at this point in time either. So we believe that right now the $7.5 million was the total amount allocated. We have justified the expense of that. We're not planning on additional dollars, but would sure be appreciated if they become available. Okay,
thank you. Our next question is from Kurt Pokart, who's one of our Rapid City area school board members. It appears that that Tuesday's election went smoothly in spite of the high turnout. So have you heard anything from the Pennington County Auditor's Office?
Well, I've not, and actually, I was a superintendent at one of the polling locations, and we voted well over 500 people at that location on that day. And I would say that from my personal experience, it did go extremely smooth. It was well set up. Polling places obviously were somewhat different in some locations, but I think the accommodations were well made by the auditor's office. And I guess I will ask Cindy Moeller and Lori Severson today, as I see them, if they did have any particular issues, but to my knowledge, we did not.
Great. Okay. Well, those are the questions that have been submitted. Linda Lee, did you have any questions that came up as Commissioner Drews was speaking?
No, but I do want to say that was a very interesting and informative presentation. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot of things, and I hope our listeners did as well. And of course, if there are people still who have questions, they can take those to Anna Marie. You know,
Anna Marie,
so far.
That's correct.
Sorry, I had my first Zoom meeting at this morning. So anyway, you can send them to Anna, and we'll give them to the commissioner so that he can answer them. Thank you very much for the time that you've given us today. As we've mentioned at the beginning, we're going to close a little early so that the commissioner can get on to his meeting this morning. And this concludes then our November Government Affairs Connection meeting. Keep an eye out for the next meeting. That will be on Thursday, December 3rd, and David Owen, who's the president and CEO of the South Dakota Chamber of Commerce, will be presenting his annual pre-legislative session tour. And believe me, if you haven't been to one of those, you should come, because not only are they interesting, but he has a good sense of humor. It'll be lively, I can tell you that. Registration details will be found in the Government Affairs Connection newsletter, which will be published on November 16th. We're nearing the close of our pilot period for the Government Affairs Connection format. We're looking to get your feedback as to issues that we may bring up in further meetings, and also, how is this working for you? We want to provide you with the most impactful events possible. Feel free to connect with Anna on ideas for our future webinars and any suggestions you have. That's it for today. Thank you, and see you on December 3rd.